Well, I'm going to just start by saying my name is Brian, and not everybody knows me. And I went to Israel. I took a group to Israel in 2005. So almost 20 years ago was the first and last time I was in Israel. And it was just an amazing experience. It absolutely transformed my life. In worship this morning, I asked how many people in the congregation have ever read the fifth gospel before. How many, and now you all know what the fifth gospel is. So how many of you here this morning have ever read the fifth gospel? How many of you have been to Israel, to the Holy Land? Okay, good. Maybe about a third of you. Awesome. Good. So why in the world would you go back? Same reason I want to go back, because it's that absolutely amazing. So I'm going to invite Jim and Terry to come on up and just share with us a little bit about your experience in Israel and the Holy Land.
Thank you. What? I did not make that slide, so no. It's she's been kind of brain dead lately, so that. Anyway, it's good to see all of you here this morning, and we're going to embark on a journey in about a year or so that it's really an amazing place. My wife and I we've been very blessed. We've traveled quite a bit extensively. How many, other than those who've gone to Israel, how many of you have traveled outside the country before? All right. Well, you know there's a lot involved in that. And we've been to quite a few places. We've been blessed in that. But the one place that always stands out is the nation of Israel, the trip to Israel, because there's something different about Israel. It's just, I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. There is a spiritual significance that happens when you go to the land that God gave his people. And there's something there. And it's you just can't explain it, but it really is an amazing, amazing experience to go to the land of Israel and to see where God instituted so many things with his people. So, and I just want to start out by giving you a kind of a description of the country, the land, maybe the topography, because when you go through that brochure, if you look at it, it looks like we're cramming in all kinds of things, and we're just going to be traveling here and there and everywhere. But the country of Israel itself, the entire country, is about the size of the state of New Jersey. So it's not very big. And almost the bottom half or third of it is the Negev desert, and we're not going to be even going there. We'll go there to the Dead Sea and so forth. And if you take the extension, you'll be going into the Negev. But generally, what we do on these trips is if you look at the entire country, it's about 300 miles long and about 85 miles wide at its widest point. And we're only going to be in the top half. So we're going to be covering basically 150 miles north and south and maybe 60 miles east and west. So if I could put it in the terms of, well, where we live, for example, it would be like from Bloomington to Chicago, north and south, and from Bloomington to the Indiana state line. That's the area in which we cover. So we're going to be doing an awful lot of stuff within that area, but you're not going to be spending half a day on a bus and that kind of thing. All right, and then when you think about the land we live in, it's all flat. I mean, you can live here and you can see tomorrow's weather coming today, right? It's not that case. It's not that way in Israel. In fact, if you go to the Sea of Galilee, for example, the Sea of Galilee is in the northern part of Israel, and it's 700 feet below sea level. But if you go 10 miles to the Golan Heights, 10 miles north of the Sea of Galilee, you're 3,000 feet above sea level. I mean, that's like going from here to Hudson, and you're going up almost 4,000 feet. And then if you go another 10 miles to Mount Hermon, Mount Hermon is 9,000 feet above sea level. That'd be like going to El Paso from here. So it's a very hilly. And then if you go down to Jerusalem, for example, Jerusalem is 2,400 feet above sea level. And then if you go just to east northeast of there, 18 miles to the city of Jericho, it's, I think, 700 feet below sea level. And that's just in 18 miles. So it's not like we have here in Illinois where everything's flat. It is a very, very, very hilly place. The Dead Sea, for example, is the lowest place on earth. It's 1,350 feet thereabouts below sea level. And then of those of you that have been there and been to Masada, you remember you're going up that big mountain and you're up the top of Masada and you're looking down into the Dead Sea area. And you know you're only 100 feet above sea level on the top of that mountain. So it's a very crazy kind of place in terms of the topography, and then you get in the wilderness and all of that stuff. But it's just an amazing country to go and to see all the differences that God has put in this little tiny place. You got the Jordan Valley, and you got well, anyway, I won't go into too much more of that. What we're going to do is we're planning to take the trip there, and the way that this trip is going to start out is we're going to charter a bus from Bloomington to take us to the airport at O'Hare, and they'll pick us up when we come back. And that way, so you don't have to drive up to O'Hare and go through all that parking. We'll find a place to park all of our cars, and we'll board a bus. We'll go to Chicago, and we'll fly to Israel, and then we'll start the tour. So I'm going to now ask the lovely and talented Terry Pitzer to come forward and kind of give you a travel log of what you can see and what you can expect as we go.
Thanks. I hope I don't have too many more big typos. I've been recovering from a virus, and it's just I've been kind of brain dead. So anyhow, I'm more than normal. Thanks. On your brochure, it has the price, $4,947. There is a discount of $150 if you register by the 15th of this month, and then the discount goes down incrementally as you get closer to the trip. All that is required now is a $500 deposit, which is really nice. We've been on some trips where they require half down immediately, which is crazy. So this is nice. We do also recommend, and they recommend, travel insurance. They give a suggested place to get it from, but you don't have to do it through them. You can shop around for different companies if you want to, but we highly recommend travel insurance. It just is peace of mind. You never know what could possibly happen, whether you get sick, somebody gets sick at home. We were just on a D-Day trip, and our flights got canceled and got delayed, and so Jim and I got there way after everybody else to Luxembourg, and we didn't have anybody to pick us up. We had to charter a cab for an hour and a half for $500, so our travel insurance picked that up. So those kind of things are helpful. At the end, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. There are no stupid questions. Every question you may have is very important. And so I will get on. I put together slides from our pictures. This will be Jim's 5th time there, my 4th time, and our 3rd time leading a group of people. God put a call on our life to take people to see his land, and so that's what we've been doing, and it's so exciting. And you'll never read the Bible again. It just kind of like the Land of Oz. It becomes in color the Wizard of Oz. When you watch that movie, it starts out in black and white, and all of a sudden it is in color, and that's what this does. Okay, I have this broken down by days. The first day is all spent traveling to get to the land of Israel. And then we get on day 2, it will probably be an overnight travel. And then on day 2, we arrive in Tel Aviv, which is a very modern city. It's just beautiful. I have pictures. I looked up our hotels that we will be staying at. So this is a rooftop picture of the pool. We are right on the Mediterranean, which is amazing. A picture of the room. Our accommodations are all very nice. So we will be there in time for dinner, and then overnight, and then day 3 is when we really get down to business and start our touring. The first place that we tour is what's called Caesarea Maritima, and that is Caesarea by the sea. And that is where Peter proclaimed the good news to the Roman centurion. That's where Paul, this is a picture of the arena where Paul was put on trial and made his confession or his testimony. This is Herod's summer palace, and it's the remains of it. And the rectangle that you see there was his swimming pool, as if he needed a swimming pool in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, he just was a crazy guy. So then we see other sites along the way. You'll get to see Roman aqueducts on the way, which is amazing. That view, I think, is looking over toward the ancient city of Akka. And then on our way, we get to go to Megiddo, which is basically, you're looking in that picture out on the Valley of Armageddon, where it is said that that will probably be the site of the last battle. And the view from there is amazing. And Megiddo is, I think it's at least 7 civilizations built on top of one another. So you see a lot of ruins there. It's an amazing place to see. The next place we go to, I am still on day 3, is Nazareth. That's Jesus' childhood home, and that is the Church of the Annunciation. It is a big church, and you get in line and you get to go down into a cave where you see where it commemorates where the angel came to Mary and told her that she was going to have a baby, and that they believe in their excavation is the site of that. Then we go on to Cana, the site of Jesus' first miracle, and that is the wedding church of Cana. We get to see, probably from a distance, the Mount of Precipice, which is where they tried to throw Jesus overboard when they didn't like what he was saying in his own hometown. And we continue to drive on till we get to, the Sea of Galilee. You'll get your first glimpse of the beautiful, peaceful Sea of Galilee, which is just amazing. The cool thing about the Sea of Galilee is because the government owns most of the property around the sea, there is very little development, and it looks much the same as it did back in Jesus' day. So it is so easy to put yourself back there and just really visualize everything that you've read about in the Bible. This is a picture of the hotel that we will be staying in there, which is right on the sea, a picture of our room, and how close it is. You're right on the Sea of Galilee. And some of the most beautiful sights are watching the sunrise or the sunset by the Sea of Galilee. Then the next day, day 4, there's a lot that we see, but a lot of it is in the same area because much of Jesus' ministry took place within just a few miles up in Capernaum. It was all centered in that area. So we will go to many sites, but they're really only a few miles apart. We begin at the site of Tabgha, and that is the traditional site of the feeding of the 5,000 with the Church of the Multiplication. And there's ceramics in the floor, beautiful ceramics that commemorate the feeding of the 5,000 there. From there, we move, on to the Church of the Primacy of St. Peter. And this is right on the Sea of Galilee. And that is probably where the fishermen had their boats where they went fishing from. And then after Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, when the disciples went back to their old jobs and they're out fishing, and then they see somebody on the shore and a fire going, and it turns out to be Jesus, and he has prepared breakfast for them, and that is where he says to Peter, "Do you love me?" 3 times, and that commemorates that. And in this picture, you can see, I think that they're not there anymore because people were trying to take pieces of it, but 3 heart-shaped rocks that commemorate Jesus asking Peter 3 times, "Do you love me? Feed my sheep," and so on. And you get a chance to actually go in the Sea of Galilee there as well as by our hotel. And that is a picture of the inside of it. Then we move on to one of my favorite places, which is the Mount of Beatitudes. It's way up high on a hillside looking down from the north side of the Sea of Galilee down toward the south. And this picture shows the church that is there. The next one is just one little glimpse, but there are gardens and beautiful flowers everywhere. And we will have a little bit of quiet time there, I'm sure, which is a wonderful place to just contemplate and imagine Jesus giving the Beatitudes there or very near there. Then we move on to the actual town of Capernaum, and we're still on day 4. Correct? Yep. And there is the synagogue. We can see the layers that are built one upon another when you're there. And so you can see blocks from the actual synagogue that was there in Jesus' day. And he, according to scripture, actually preached in that synagogue, which is one of the places. There are certain places that you can say with certainty that Jesus was, and that is one of them. Right next door, practically, is the remains of the home of Peter's mother-in-law, where Jesus made his home base and stayed much of the time. Now, there is a church built over it, and then in the center is this glass that you can look down into the excavations and see the house that they believe was Peter's mother-in-law's house. After that, it will be a highlight for many people, an opportunity to go sailing on the Sea of Galilee, which is just amazing. You feel like you're back in Jesus' day. It is so quiet and so peaceful. Okay, then that night we will be back at our hotel and have another nice night there. So I think we spend 2 nights there. Then day 5, we go on to the north, to Caesarea Philippi. And we travel through the Golan Heights. And so you'll get to understand when you hear on the news why they talk about the Golan Heights, why that is so important. Because if they lose the Golan Heights, if Israel loses the Golan Heights, their nation won't be secure. The bombing from Syria would just go right down into Galilee and could reach many places. So for their security interests, is vital that they hold the Golan Heights, and there are many remnants of fighting that you see up there. And so it's a very interesting place to drive through. But Caesarea Philippi is another place where Jesus went with his disciples before he headed down to Jerusalem for his crucifixion. It's one of the places that they can say with certainty that Jesus was in that within probably several hundred feet, because he said, even the gates of hell will not prevail. And that is what is termed the gates of hell. There's a huge opening there that is a cave, but if you look to the right of that, there are many altars carved into the rock there for the goddess Pan and various others that they worshipped, because it was a pagan place. And up beyond that, it was all pagan territory. But down in the bottom it's the origin, the mouth of the Jordan River, or the origin of the Jordan River, and it's so peaceful. And that's where Jesus said to Peter, "Who do you say that I am?" And he declared that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And so that they know that it had to be in that specific area. And you can see why he took his disciples there for peacefulness before everything got crazy, because it is the most peaceful place. You see the water coming out of the cave and beginning the Jordan River there. And it is just a beautiful, beautiful spot. From there, we move on to, one of the cities of the Decapolis. The Decapolis is 10 Roman cities. They were all pagan. And the one that we get to visit with the best ruins is Bet Shean. And it is absolutely amazing. The ruins are Roman ruins are in such fantastic shape. It is absolutely beautiful to see. You get to walk all around it, and then up a hill if you want to, and look down on everything. And you can see why it was such an important and large city. It was absolutely beautiful. From there, we travel on down to the Dead Sea. And then we will have dinner, and overnight we will spend one night at the Dead Sea, which is amazing. Hopefully you'll have some time, maybe that night, to go into the Dead Sea, to go swimming if you want to, or the next morning. It's an experience like none other. You can never drown in the Dead Sea except if you flip over, and you can't turn yourself right side up, because you can't sink. We watched our first trip there. Somebody was piling rocks on somebody to see how much they could do to try to make them sink. You can't sink. It's kind of smelly, but it is an experience like nothing else. So and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. The color of the Dead Sea is amazing, but it's eerie too, because there are no birds, there's no trees, there's no nothing, because it can't live there. So it's and as Jim said, it's the lowest spot on the face of the earth. So it's pretty amazing. From there, that's a view of the Dead Sea. The next morning, we move on to Masada. Did I show a picture of our hotel there? Okay. We move on to Masada, the fortress of Masada, which is down there by the Dead Sea. It is Herod's palace. He was a paranoid guy, and he was afraid that people were always going to be out to get him, and he had many palaces, but that was one that was kind of like a hideaway that he could get to if he needed to be secure, and nobody was going to get to him up there. And he had swimming pools. Every palace he had. This is a 3-level palace built in the side of the cliff. And you take a cable car up to the top. For those of us like me who are afraid of heights, it's interesting, but it is just amazing at the top, and the view is amazing. And that is where the Jews at the revolt in, 70 AD, had their last stronghold and held out there for I don't know how long it was, till the Romans made a siege to go up to the top and finally conquered them. However, they all committed suicide rather than be taken by the Romans. After that, we move on to the site of Qumran, which is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and found by a little shepherd boy who was out there tending his flocks, and he just was throwing rocks, and all of a sudden he heard something break. And right there, that opening, that hole, like looks like a window arch, is where the Dead Sea Scrolls that they've found. They're finding more, but that was where the majority of them were found, right there. And it was just a shepherd boy who was just whiling away the time, throwing rocks. So we get to see that, as well as some other ruins that are there from the Essenes, which is ritual baths and things like that. And that was probably John the Baptist he may have been an Essene, part of that sect. Those were the locust eating people. And you can see why, because there's nothing else out there to eat. Then we move on to En Gedi. And that is the area where, one of my brain dead moments, David hid from Saul. And when you're there, if you read the Bible, you think in a cave. Well, you picture maybe one cave. Oh my gosh, in that area, in the Sinai or the Negev, it is just caves, caves, caves everywhere you look, just tons of them. And so it's so easy to understand how he hid in a cave, but also the importance of water, because it is nothing but dry, barren desert. And all of a sudden, you see the palm trees. You see an oasis. And then if you walk a little farther, you come to one of the waterfalls of David. And you understand when he wrote some of the Psalms, he makes me lie down beside still waters. He restores my soul. And you can see how that must have been amazing, an amazing place for David to find some refuge. Also in that area, there's animals called ibex, which are so cool. They're kind of like deer or goats, kind of a combination, and they climb up into the trees, and they'll be all over in the trees. They climb the cliffs, and so they're able to do just pretty astonishing things. So they're very interesting to watch. Then we end our day going up to Jerusalem. We get to the holy city, and we begin 4 days or 4 nights we spend in Jerusalem. And there truly is nothing like Jerusalem. That is a picture of the Golden Gate. And it is said that Jesus will, when he comes back, he will descend from the Mount of Olives and enter Jerusalem through the Golden Gate. And to see that is just so awe-inspiring. This is our hotel that we will be staying at in Jerusalem. And that is a picture of the room. And how close it is to the old city. The view is right there. You're right there. And so we are within walking distance. Any free time that we have, you can walk to the old city yourself. It is fine to do that. Then we are on I did forget. We might have time to be visiting Jericho the day before we get to Jerusalem. Everybody remembers this song, Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, and that's an interesting town. So we will begin day 7 up on the Mount of Olives, and that is high up. It separates Jerusalem, the Kidron Valley separates the Mount of Olives from Jerusalem, and you have a beautiful view of the city from up there. And we will have an opportunity to walk down, follow the old Palm Sunday route and walk down where Jesus did on that Palm Sunday. And there are many, God bless you, there's many churches and places on the way. We will be probably stopping at more than just what I'm highlighting, but it's the first major place that we will come to. Oh, that is the view from the top of the Mount of Olives, and it's an interesting thing. It's a cemetery. All on that side, it's just grave after grave after grave after grave. And at the bottom, there are a lot of Christian graves because they want to be there and be among the first ones to rise and enter Jerusalem with Jesus. So when we're up at the top, you'll also have an opportunity to ride a camel if you want to. Not down the hill, but a little bit around there. But the first main site we get to is the Garden of Gethsemane. It is a peaceful, quiet place. Back in Jesus' day, there were lots of olive trees and things like that. Everything was destroyed afterwards. But you look at it now, and I know after my first time there, I thought, whoa, this is God's special land. I don't know. I would have picked Hawaii or something much different than this because all it is a pile of rocks. But it was very beautiful and fertile, and it is becoming that again, which is wonderful to see. But you can see those just centuries-old olive trees, gnarly and amazing. And that is where Jesus went on the night before he was crucified. That this is the Church of All Nations, or the Church of the Agony, and that commemorates where Jesus prayed. And he walked a stone's throw away from his disciples and prayed that God would take that cup from him and sweat drops of blood. And it's also a very beautiful church. Then later that day, we get to go to one of the most famous sites, the Western Wall. You'll hear a lot of people call it the Wailing Wall. The Jews consider that an insult. It is people who have said, oh, they just pray. They're praying sounds like wailing. And so it is a derogatory term. It is the Western Wall, and it is the part that is still left of the original temple wall. And it is the closest that the Jews can get to the old temple. So it is a very holy place. The part that you're seeing is the men's side. If you look to the right of the picture where it's dark, there where the umbrellas are, there's a wall. And the ladies' side is about a quarter that big. And that's where ladies go. Men get this big expanse on the other side. And when we were there one time, there was a bunch of bar mitzvahs going on, and the moms were standing on plastic folding chairs looking over the wall to watch their sons going through bar mitzvah. They were not even allowed to be a part of that. This was one of our most amazing experiences. We got to go see the Western Wall at night. And if you look, it's very different. It's mainly tourists in the day, but the Orthodox Jews come at night. They get paid to pray, so day and night means nothing to them. They're up at all hours, especially the men. The women are home taking care of their families, but the men are out at all hours because that's when they come, that they don't have to deal with the tourists. So, they don't get defiled by tourists. So it is an amazing experience. I don't know if we'll get to do that, but we're going to ask and see if that can be available to anybody who wants to do that. Then this tour says, and it's all permitting, depending upon political conditions at the time, but it is an amazing opportunity. We may get to go up on the Temple Mount, which is forbidden I don't think Jewish people can go up there at all. And it is, what you are seeing is the Dome of the Rock. Now that is a spot that is the most holy spot, or one of the most holy to the Islam faith as well as to the Christian faith. Inside there is a rock where they believe, I think that Muhammad ascended from, but also where Abraham went to sacrifice Isaac. And so it is an extremely holy spot. And you can see why the Jews worship at the Western Wall, because it is the closest they can get to that spot. Also at the Western Wall, you will look, and in between all of the rocks, there's tons of wads of paper stuck in there because people write their prayers and they put it in the wall. And so that is something that is interesting to see. Also up on the Temple Mount is the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And that, if you are not a Muslim, you are not allowed in. That is a place of prayer. And so for the Muslims. But there, the Temple Mount up on top is a very large place. It was very surprising to see it. So it was a privilege to get to go up there, and hopefully we will get to do that. Then we continue on to go into the old city of Jerusalem. What you're seeing is St. Anne's Crusader Church. It is just such a gorgeous church, and it is all white mainly. And one of the cool things is its acoustics are fantastic. And so most groups that come sing, get an opportunity to go stand up front and sing. And it is something that you will always remember. St. Anne, Jim just looked up, and she was Mary's mother. So it is a church commemorating her. From there, right next to it, right outside of it, are the pools of Bethesda. Now, when I read the Bible and thought of that, I'm thinking of little things like this just on the side of the road. No, look at that. That is hugely deep and very big. It is so impressive to see. So that is one of those things that gives you a different impression when you read the Bible about that, of what it really looked like. Then we move on to our journey along the Via Dolorosa. All along the way, there are markers commemorating, in the Catholic tradition, there's, I forget how many, 12 spots where different things of importance happened, and they have markers at all of them. But some of them are peaceful areas to walk through, and others are like that, where you're walking in a narrow section through the old town of Jerusalem. And it is a very interesting journey. All of this takes you to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And in many traditions, this is probably archaeologically maybe the most accurate place commemorating where Jesus was crucified and then was laid to rest. And all that is inside of that building, which is really, it's all sandwiched in with everything else. And, you come in and you go up to the right, and there is the, what they consider the Golgotha, the hill that Jesus was crucified on, the rock. And then down to the left, they have made this building that is in the middle of the church that commemorates where Jesus was laid, his tomb. And so it's very different than what Christians feel it looks like and feels like. But the church is controlled by, I think, up to 7 different denominations. They each have a section, like Armenians and so many. And it's crazy. And then somebody else has the key. Somebody completely different. I think it might even be a Jordanian that has the key to the whole thing. So it has an amazing story to it, and that is looking up at the dome from where that I don't know what you call that box that they made is, but it's a beautiful, unusual church. From there, we'll move on to the southern steps of the temple. And this is another place that can be said Jesus actually would have had to walk up and down those steps every time he went to the temple, because that was the only way to get in and out. And so it's very powerful to actually be in another place where you know that Jesus, talk about walking in the footsteps of Jesus. You actually are. From there, make sure I'm on the same day. Okay. that ends our day 7 in Jerusalem. Then Friday, day 8. No, I think I. Okay. I don't have a picture, but Friday, day 8, we begin by visiting Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Memorial Museum and memorial. It is, the outside is not that impressive. The inside will leave you speechless. It is an amazing place. In back of that is a cemetery where a lot of important people to the Holocaust are buried. Schindler from Schindler's List is buried there. But it is a powerfully moving thing to walk through the Holocaust Museum in the nation that was so affected by that. From there, we'll see the city of David, which is just really right by there, kind of connected to it. It is a 4,000-year-old city, so basically the origins of Jerusalem. David went there, started the city, and named it that, and then it expanded from there. But they're excavating ruins there, a lot of them recently, and so it's a very historical place to look at. Then we'll have an opportunity to go to Hezekiah's Tunnel. I don't have a picture of that. You get to choose if you want to walk through it, or if you want to do a different thing where you're not actually walking through it, but you're there, and that's how he got water from one side of Jerusalem to the other. It's an amazing engineering feat, what he did. Pool of Siloam, and then that is a picture of the Church of St. Peter in Gallicantu. And that is such an important site for many reasons. It's believed to be Caiaphas's house, and where Jesus was imprisoned. And that is from in this pit, they call it, that is looking up at the light, and it's a pit about like this where they believe that is where, after being with Caiaphas, that he was chained and hung and spent the night there. It is a deeply moving place to be. But this is also the site right outside where in the courtyard Peter denied Jesus, denied knowing him. I don't know him. And the cock crowed. And that is a memorial to it. And right from in that same spot, you see ancient steps that lead down into the Kidron Valley. And then they're not there anymore, but would go up to the Mount of Olives near the Garden of Gethsemane. And that is probably how Jesus and his disciples traveled down there to have the Last Supper and everything. And then he went back up there, and they probably could have seen the torches from the Romans going down into the valley and up before he was arrested. Then that evening or late afternoon, we end our day at the Garden Tomb. Now, there's debate whether the Church of the Holy Sepulchre or the Garden Tomb is the actual place where Jesus was crucified and buried. The Protestants tend to believe that this was it. The Catholic tradition tends to think it's the other. As our guide said, it really does not matter because it's probably as close as we are to College Hills Mall. I mean, it's very close. So it's right in the area if it's not the exact spot. But this is a spot that feels so right to Protestants. I think it just doesn't have all the Orthodox trappings that the other churches do. So it really doesn't matter, but we will have probably a worship service at that site. And that is there was a garden there, and tombs, and so that shows the garden tomb, and inside where it was carved out and believed that Jesus may have been laid. Then we move on day 9, and we've again stayed overnight in Jerusalem. And I want to mention that in the price, all breakfasts and dinners are provided. Lunches will be on your own, but all breakfasts and dinners, which is an amazing thing, as well as money for tips, gratuities, all that kind of thing. So then, we begin our day on day 9 with a visit to Bethlehem, which is just, I think it's like 7 miles south of Jerusalem. It's all so close. We think of this stuff as being far apart, but it is not. The Church of the, again, Nativity is not what you think it would be from the outside. I mean, you look at that. Does that look like a church? It's a very low entrance for 2 reasons. One is it's a sign of humility, and also it was to keep horses out during the conquests and everything, because they couldn't ride in there and desecrate the church, because you have to bow down to get in. Now inside, there's a big ornate church, but to get to the spot of Jesus' birth, you have to all funnel into this one area, and then it's a semicircle with steps going down, and then only one at a time can walk in. And that is the spot commemorating Jesus' birth. I can see why Jim always, when he saw this when he was a little kid, he always thought Jesus was born in a fireplace. From there, we go on to a place that we've never been. It's called Herodium, and that is the tomb of Herod. But it was many civilizations, but he wanted it even higher than it was. So he had his workers build it up. It looks like a volcano, and it was also a palace of his. He had indoor and outdoor pools and all kinds of stuff, but he had elaborate funeral rites, and they just recently found his tomb there. They searched for it for a long time. But we get to do that, and it sticks out like a sore thumb in the landscape because nothing is flat on the top like that. So it just looks very different. Then back in Jerusalem, we get, and let me see if I'm still on the same day. Okay, we're moving on. We have another night in Jerusalem, and then day 10, we move on to a little more touring in the Holy City, and we get to visit the upper room. And they have pretty good reason to believe of the accuracy of the upper room, because it said that Jesus sent his disciples to have the place prepared, and they saw a man carrying water, I think it was, and that was only done in certain sections of the city. It was so they kind of know for sure where it was, and that it's just an empty, very pretty room. But you think of all that happened there, and it's very powerful and moving. Then we move on to the Shrine of the Book, and that is the spot where the Dead Sea Scrolls are kept. They're kept underground, far underground, but you see the replicas of them in this round dome-shaped white building. And then we move on to the Valley of Elah, and that is where David slew Goliath. And we've not been there either. Looking forward to that, and the brook where he got his stones from. And then we move on to the ancient city of Jaffa, which is just connected to Tel Aviv. And we will have our farewell dinner there before those who are not going on the extension will board an overnight flight and say goodbye to Tel Aviv and fly home after an amazing experience. You may wonder a little bit about the food. At the hotels, the buffet spreads are like you would find in any restaurant. So many things to offer. Many more fresh vegetables for breakfasts and things like that than you're used to. You won't find bacon. There's no pork. Jewish people don't eat pork, but that's an example. I think that's chicken and pita bread, probably the best you'll ever taste. It's amazing. Lots of vegetables, hummus, pomegranate juice, fresh squeezed pomegranate juice. Oh my, it is amazing. That is a falafel in a pita, and it's Jim would disagree, but I think it's really good. And then just some pictures of the markets that you walk through as you see things. There's all kinds of goods, food, Dead Sea Tupperware, and resins like myrrh and frankincense and things like that. So you can find about whatever you would want. Then for those who are moving on to Egypt, this is short because it's only 4 days there, but it is also a very amazing place. It will be a drive down to the Sinai to Mount Musa. We will cross the border into Egypt, and that is, tradition says that is the place where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And there will be an opportunity for those who are fit and ready to do it to go the 4,000 feet climb to see the sunrise on top of Mount Musa. And that will start at like 2 something in the morning and walk up there. And of course, I watched 2 YouTube videos on it, and there are souvenir shops and snack shops on the way up. So it's a cool place. This is St. Catherine's Monastery at the bottom, and they believe that is the site of the burning bush that Moses saw. And it is one of the oldest monasteries. They don't yet have our hotels for the Egypt part, but we would be staying. They operate a hostel, and there's a couple others that are nearby, so it would be something like that. But after the group that goes up gets down, and after breakfast, we will be taking a tour of the monastery, and then we'll be boarding a short flight on to Cairo. Now, if you look at that picture way back in the distance, do you see the pyramids kind of in the middle, in the fog? That's how close they are. They've built up the city so much that they're just right on the edge of it, which was, I pictured them as being out far away, in a desert somewhere, but they're right there. So after a night overnight in Cairo, all of our nights will be in Cairo except that first one. You have the opportunity. We will go to the pyramids of Giza, which are, I always thought, just like one. Well, no, there's 3, but we will get to go to the largest, the Great Pyramid of, and I can't say his name right, Cheops, and we'll also have the opportunity to go inside of it, which we have not done, to the tomb area, if people choose to do that. And we'll also get to go to the Step Pyramid, which there's a lot of different pyramids around there. So that is a very, very interesting one. You can see in that picture they were doing repair. They had scaffolding. So I'm guessing they always do some kind of repair. You'll even have the opportunity to ride around the pyramids on a camel if you choose to do that. Then we go see the Sphinx, which is, I think his nose got shot off at some point in time, so he's missing a little bit of his nose. But it is an impressive sight. And then the Colossus of Ramses. And that is in the site of the old first capital of Egypt, Memphis. And then the next day, day 14, we get to have a special tour of the new Egypt Museum. We have not seen the new one. They were working on it. Took them a lot longer to finish it than what they thought, but it is just an amazing. Their treasures are unbelievable, and that is where all of the King Tut stuff is. They don't allow you to take pictures of the most impressive things that they found in King Tut's tomb, but this is part of it that they don't have in that special room. He was found in a series of boxes, gold-plated boxes, one inside another, and this is one of them. This was a throne. How they fit all that stuff in there in his tomb was amazing, because I was down there and it's not very big. And that is a picture of some of a necklace. And then we move on from there to what is called the Citadel. And inside there is an elaborately decorated mosque of Muhammad Ali, not the Muhammad Ali we think of. But we are allowed in there. It is big. It is beautiful. That's a picture of the ceiling. And from there, that's another picture from the outside of it. Oh, no, excuse me, that's not. From there, we move on to the Coptic Christian churches. The Coptic Christians are highly persecuted in Egypt. And their churches are in a small section, but I'm not positive. I think that is the hanging church. It is very, very famous. They're very old, and it is built over ancient Roman gatehouse, and so it's actually kind of suspended. The nave is suspended over that. And this, I think, is the church of Saint Sergius. I'm not up on my Catholic saints, but it is extremely old. It is just gorgeous inside, absolutely beautiful. And underneath is a cave where the Holy Family lived for a while. We were kind of surprised when we went there, saw these things. Israel is the one who very good about their history. Are detailed in record keeping, and you'll see a chart of where the Holy Family went, how long they stayed at each place, baby Jesus. And so it's kept just as immaculate a record this as they did with everything else. Then the Ben Ezra synagogue, they're not allowed to take, or nobody is allowed to take pictures in there, so I don't have pictures of the inside of it, but it is just phenomenal. It is amazing. And then we end our time in Cairo getting to visit of part of it. This is a little coffee shop there, an example of that. That is some more scenes from the bazaar. And that is a scene of Jim at an ATM tucked in along the things. He's going to the ATM so that I could go see a vendor there. So it's just an amazing place to visit. I guess what I would say is, if you have to choose, obviously your first choice is the main trip, because you can't go on this without that. Go to Israel. But if you have an opportunity, when else are you going to be in the neighborhood? You know, that's what we have decided on some of these things. If you were to go to some of these places all the way from here, you're paying all that airfare, but it's such a cheap add-on for 4 days and your meals and your hotel and admission to all of this stuff, because you're already right there. And from there, it will be going to the Cairo airport and flying home after an amazing, we hope, life-changing experience. So, questions? And it is $17.97 per person.
Yeah, and I just want to address also that, some people have said, "Gosh, it seems like you're doing a lot," and even the brochure says activity level 4. And people have said, "Gosh, that just seems like too much. I don't know if I could do all that." But what you need to know is you don't have to do everything. You can stay at the hotel. You can stay on the bus. You can kind of pick and choose. If it feels like it's too much physical activity. So just know that you don't have to do every single thing. You don't have to climb up, Mount Sinai to get the 10 Commandments. Yeah.
No, it is. It can be kind of a physical trip because there's a lot of walking. They said in the brochure you can anticipate walking about 4 to 5 miles every day. But as Brian said, if you get to a place and it looks like it's too strenuous, you can just stay on the bus. Like, for example, when we were at the Mount of Olives, we would walk down the path of the Palm Sunday, and it's a long walk down to the bottom of the Mount of Olives, but the bus drops us off at the top and picks us up at the bottom. So if you want to just stay on the bus, you can do that. Actually, I found that the hardest thing physically to do on these trips is to get in and out of that bus. Because you're up on a higher level, and you got to climb up the bus to do it. And so, but we'll be there to help you and to make sure you can get in and out of it at a time. But it is it'll work you.
Not all that walking at once.
No,
You get
no,
back on the bus,
yeah.
and then get out.
So you get a break in between, and usually they have bottled water on the bus and things like that. So if but we're going to be there at a different time than we're used to going because it's a little bit hotter in the time. But we're going to be there in December and January. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but I'm guessing it'll be fairly cool, except when you're down at the Dead Sea. But other than that, any other questions? Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I called them yesterday because I didn't know. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And it's really kind of an interesting process that they have because in other trips that we've gone on, the tour company just says, this is the insurance, this is what it costs. This one doesn't do that. And so I called them, and it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It's based on your state of residence, your destination, the length of your trip, the cost of the trip, and your age. So since I'm older than most of you here, I said, well, what would it be for me? And it basically came out to, what was it, $750 for the two of us. So it's about $375 a piece. But she did say, because I was talking about kids and grandkids and things like that, she did say that any child under 17 is free. If they're accompanied by an adult, they get the adult's insurance, and that's free for anybody under 17.
Yeah, and mine was 200. I'm 54, and I live in Illinois. So,
Well, the question is, how old am I? Let's put it this way. When I was born, the Dead Sea was still alive. I'm 73. I'll be 74 when I go. So, yeah, that's the other thing. They have 3 different levels of insurance that you can buy. They have the essential plan, and then they have a premium, and then they have a third one. I just took the basic one, and that's if something happens, you get your money back for the trip. If you get sick over there, you got $15,000 in coverage for hospitals, and if you die over there, There's $150,000 in insurance to repatriate your body back to the United States. Yeah, well, yeah. Well, either that or you can just go to the Mount of Olives and put one of those stone coffins. Yes. About 14, 16 hours somewhere. Yeah.
So, no, can you repeat the question for the
Oh.
armor? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Yeah. The question was, how long is the flight over there? And it's about 13, 14 hours, depending on whether you're going this way or that way. Downwind or upwind, yeah.
Give her the mic.
First time we went, it was direct. What? Don't know. Ours was in Germany last time, Frankfurt. One time we flew El Al and didn't have one. We had a layover in Germany. Yeah. So they don't have that booked yet, so we don't know. Yeah, and Imagine Tours would be able to work that out. This is the price based on a departure from O'Hare. But yes, definitely. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
It all sounds great until, I don't want to use that $150,000 to send my body back.
oh, well, just leave you there then. Now, I tell you what, we have. That's right. I mean, Israel is one of the safest countries in the world for tourists. You see a lot of stuff on the media and everything else, but the crime rate over there is very small, and the terrorist threats and all that stuff. For one thing, the Arabs, and I hate to use the word Arab because they're really not Arabs, but the Palestinians or whatever you want to call them, they depend as much as anybody else on tourism. That's where they get their. So they're not going. Any of the tourist spots that people go to are as safe as they can be. There's no armed guards. There's no nothing. It really is. It's safer than going to the city of Chicago
Or Peoria.
or Peoria. Yeah, for that matter, or Decatur. I mean,
You will see armed military, young, like
Yeah.
18-year-olds armed when you go into the city gates and things like that. And first I thought, is that going to make me feel less safe or more safe? It makes me feel more safe. In the military, everybody has to serve and everybody has a gun. So I have never felt unsafe in Israel.
and
And they'll cancel the trip if there's
Yeah.
if there's don't they will if there's a big military.
the other thing is there were times when we were there. Your tour guide and your bus driver are always in contact with their home office or whatever you want to call it. So if there's something, for example, we were going into Tel Aviv and there was something going on in a marketplace. So they called the bus and they rerouted us around it and everything. So if there's anything that's happening that goes on, they'll know about it and they'll keep you clear of it, because that's the way it works. And if you're, yeah,
Go ahead.
no. So it's the first time we went there, the place. I mean, the one place that I really felt concerned for my life was when I was landing in Bloomington in the fall.
Yeah, and I just want to say too that we will be in Palestine. I think it's important for you to know that Bethlehem is in Palestine, so we won't just be in Israel and Egypt, but we will also be crossing the border between Israel and Palestine. You just need to know that.
Yes.
the area there.
Yes.
Yeah. Take a lot of it. No. Yes. They will take U.S. dollars, or they'll take shekels, or they'll take plastic. It and yes. Yep. 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 Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is, if you go to an ATM, like you saw me doing, I do that a lot because she likes to shop. You can get shekels or you can get U.S. dollars from an ATM machine. Usually, not always, but in the hotels, all the ATMs they'll say what kind of currency you can buy. You can also get euros. They'll take euros there too. So, yeah, yes, they expect you to barter. They it A lot of places will if it's. I mean, if it's and you're allowed one suitcase, but you can take a carry-on. What we usually do is we take empty carry-ons because she likes to shop, and we come home with a lot.
So that's
The and what were you saying about in the things that are there's a lot of what we call Dead Sea Tupperware. I mean, that comes from the movie Aladdin, but it's just junky stuff that's made in China, and they send it over there. So we call it Dead Sea Tupperware. But there are certain things over there that you can really get good quality. One is olive wood, carved olive wood. There, I mean, you can get nativity sets. You can get things this big. I mean, it's just. And the other one is jewelry. They're big on jewelry and diamonds. And what else?
covered in glass.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's sold in Jericho, which is just amazing, beautiful, colored, handmade glass. So a good tour guide over there will take us to the reputable.
Yeah. And usually what we have experienced in the past, this is a Christian group that does the tour, so they try to go to the Christian stores. And the reason for that is Christians over there are very persecuted because you got the Jews on the one side, the Muslims on the other, and the Christians in the middle, and they have no standing whatsoever. So we try to frequent the Christian stores because it's their lifeline. It's the only thing that keeps them going. Did you have something? What else? As far as the money is concerned, you're going to the shops over there will take any kind of plastic that you've got usually, but and they say in the brochure that all the gratuities are included in this tour. But a lot of times, if you got a real good bus driver or you got a real good tour guide, you want to just kind of cross their problem with a little silver at the end, so you can add a little bit. I always take about $600-700 in cash, or the equivalent of that, just to spread it around over there.
We've never had the tips
Included before, yeah.
some of the tips were, and like there will be your luggage will be taken care of when you get to the hotel, where we will take it up, and in the morning the way it usually works is you are on a day that we're leaving a hotel, you're told what time to have your luggage outside, and you put it outside your door. They take it down and load it onto the bus. As far as luggage, we each took one large suitcase and one carry-on, and then you get a personal item too. So, yes. Pretty much. No, more lunch. You might have the opportunity to order something like that. Pretty much they're buffets. Um, but there are lots of choices. Lots of choices. Usually I would say in around 8, something like that, and being back by dinner time. How I would usually get around that is usually it was maybe an hour ahead, luggage had to be out or something like that, but I also had a carry-on. And so I would pull anything I need out of my big one, and my makeup and all would go into my carry-on, and then I would just carry that down. Oh, yes. Okay, we won't be on any trains. So it will be this probably the same motor coach the whole time, and hopefully we will have the what are called whispers or other things where they're around your neck, and you have a earphone, and that way, if you're in a crowded spot, you can hear your guide. You can hear everything, so you're not missing anything, which is wonderful.
Motor coaches are usually
You can leave things on them.
if you're going to a site, just leave your stuff on there and take whatever cameras or whatever you want. But everything that you leave on there first is
It gets locked, and the bus driver stays there. There needs to be 15 people signed up for the Egypt extension to happen. Just hopefully that won't be any problem at all, but that is one of their requirements.
we're only going to do one class, so we're talking 45 the whole tour for the whole tour. Now, the Egypt thing,
Probably the same. We didn't talk about whether we'd add another bus or not, but it gets a little more complicated if you get in Israel, if you get,
We'll cross that bridge.
yeah, well, that would be a wonderful problem to have to deal with. Yes. It's on if you pick up a brochure in the back, it's on there. I think the deadline is like 100 days before or when it fills up. If it's full, but your first discount and is the $150 a person discount is you got to sign up by the 15th of this month, and then it gives on the front of that, it tells you the succeeding discount dates and amounts.
we get more than that. Now, one other thing that I want to mention, Brian talked about it this morning, and that's and I think I've told this story. I was there when I was about 7 years old, and we went all through the Middle East, but specifically Israel. And as a little guy, I am convinced in my life that that's what really developed in me the love for the Bible. And so we have, as we've done this kind of my wife and I have kind of as a ministry in the past, where we would establish a scholarship fund, and for anybody that wanted to take their kids or young people or maybe even college age or whatever, that I mean, these things aren't cheap, they're expensive. And this is we would create a scholarship fund specifically targeted for kids or pastors or young people that can't afford it, or maybe a family, because if a husband and wife want to go, that's a big number, and if they want to take their kids, it's really a big number. So we would establish these scholarship funds to help people bring their younger people, or people that just couldn't afford to go, that would love to go. we established a scholarship fund just so that we could help them with defray the costs. We've done that again here at Faith, and we put a little seed money in it, and we're hoping that those that maybe can't go or decide they don't want to go, you can join us in this ministry to give that opportunity, that blessing to somebody else, especially young people. So that's what that's for, and it's tax deductible, the whole shooting match. You can give it out of your IRAs or your retirement accounts. So if you decide you don't want to go or you can't go, but you'd like to give this gift to somebody else, that's an opportunity. It's available to do so. So, and we spread it out. You know, we don't just pay somebody's way necessarily, because it's nice to have somebody at least have the little skin in the game too. So, but we can defray the cost for a lot of people that way. So, yes. Yep.
Other people on the trip had no knowledge of that. So we want to respect people's dignity.
I can't afford it.
Any other questions? And we'll hang around a little bit afterwards if you have some. Yes, Carol.
Yes.
Yeah, we try to do that as many days as we can, to have a little time of worship and really teaching as to what we're going to be seeing the next day or what we saw today. Because this is a Christian tour, and we want to bring Bible teaching into the process as well. That will, and there'll be music tomorrow too. I'm assuming.
Yep.
I've got some example of some Israel books on the back table. You're free to look at them, not to keep them. If somebody wants to take one and then bring it back, like in a week, that's fine. If you have questions, we'll hang around a little bit afterwards. But thank you for coming. And
we'll also be having the same meeting on Wednesday night. So if you know people who might be interested, it'll be Wednesday night, 7:00. And then we're also putting this, I think we're going to post this online some way. Right, Bridget? Can we do that? Yep. Okay. So, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you bet.
I hope that doesn't hurt.
I was kidding about I can't afford it. In fact, I've had a conversation with my folks, and my folks and my own kids. My folks are able to help defray the costs for me and my kids, and so I don't know. I have no shame in asking my parents for some inheritance. Either get it now or get it later. So I'm just like, hey, wait, isn't there a parable about that? Okay, thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.